The game starts in a brick-walled bedroom. There's a bed, a clock frozen at midnight, and an out-of-place toilet and a picture frame spelling out 4 simple rules. Observe your surroundings and watch out for anomalies. Something wrong? Leave without eating the cake. Everything normal? Eat the cake before you leave. You may escape in the morning at 7 a.m. I walked out of the room to look for any of these anomalies. The mirror immediately to the left of the door showed I was a young boy. Everything seemed normal until I noticed the wallpaper pattern. An upside down cross. I wasn't sure at first, but it had to be an anomaly. I continued cautiously through the house, trying to remember every detail. At the end of the hall was Grandma holding a delicious piece of cake. But the rules said not to eat it if anything was wrong, so I went back to the bedroom. The clock had moved forward half an hour, confirming that I was correct. I assumed that if I had been wrong, it would have stayed at midnight. On the second round through the house, there was a very obvious change. The piano sheet music had been replaced with what looked like a medical book record belonging to my grandpa, who was asleep in his favorite chair. The book listed early symptoms and a short description. Subject has severe loss of speech and shows aggression towards family members and friends. He has phases of utter disorientation and will round the same path over and over again. He enjoys watching TV but can get lost in his head. Restraint from alcohol consumption has tried and failed. Reading that made me feel more cautious around Grandpa, as I feel an anomaly would suddenly be him trying to attack me. With that anomaly spotted, I had to skip the cake again. Truly a sad fate. On the third round, I took the same path, checking everything in the same order. When I reached Grandma and the cake, I felt unsure and had to double back for one last look around. Nothing seemed wrong, so I returned and ate the cake. And thankfully, the clock moved ahead. Feeling confident, I went through the house again. Everything looked normal. No double checking this time. I ate Grandma's cake and walked back into the bedroom. It was now 2:30 a.m. and immediately I knew something was wrong. The mirror showed a shadowy figure. It looked like Grandpa in his wheelchair, staring at the ceiling. But when I turned around, he wasn't there. I kept moving, but as soon as I reached the living room, my movement slowed and Grandpa came rolling down the hall towards me from behind. Obviously, this was an anomaly, so I had to just keep pushing forward with my slow movement. But at the end of the hall, Grandma was no longer blocking the stairs going up. I took that as a chance to explore upstairs, but all I found was a lit lamp sitting on the floor and then a door behind me closed. Curiosity got the best of me, and now I found myself in the back rooms of this house. All I could do was wander the halls, hoping they led me somewhere new. The rooms were eerie, and I felt like something could appear at any moment. The next section was filled with greenery. The way the light hit the leaves made me imagine glowing eyes watching me from across the room, only for it to only be nothing. Playground swings and clubhouses were scattered through the area. The greenery ended and my grandparents' old wallpaper returned on the walls. A poor imitation of the living room stretched in front of me, but when I looked back, I saw Grandma and Grandpa were standing in the room where I came from, staring silently. The only path was downstairs. The halls turned cold and dark like a basement. Eventually, I found light again, but the room was worse. Portraits of Grandma and Grandpa hung upside down, staring into me. Up the next staircase, Grandpa appeared at a window before hiding away quickly. I felt like he was stalking me, showing himself only for brief moments. I entered a room with a large mirror and a wheelchair, and that's when I realized I was no longer the young boy. I was now Grandpa himself, and in the corner of my eye was a dark figure, one shaped like the boy I once was. Well, with nothing else to do, I kept moving forward. I went into a slightly flooded area and reached a room with a ladder just out of reach. It doesn't look like I'll be able to reach it, so I had to just wander around till I found a solution. At times, I caught glimpses of a young lady watching from the darkness, but it was always at the corner of my eye, so I wasn't really sure throughout the whole time. Eventually, I found a lever that opened a gate below me. This new path led to the kitchen, except the kitchen was covered in bodies and bloodstains. Then Grandma suddenly burst through the door carrying her cake. She had 3 heads and was swinging deadly tools around her. It was safe to assume this twisted version of Grandma had butchered the bodies that I've seen before me. I managed to maneuver around her as best as I could, back through the kitchen, and as I was passing through, a dark figure of a woman appeared, only to my guess was the lady that's been following me this whole time. But even when I reached the next area, I thought I was safe, but still, Grandma was still chasing me. I was relieved when the gate closed behind me, shutting her out on the other side. So the only thing left for me now is to just keep moving forward and wander around these back rooms once more. I activated a red lever that caused the flooded area's water level to rise, and with that I remember the ladder room with boxes. I returned there and the higher water allowed me to climb onto the floating boxes and reach the ladder. Down the hall was a bedroom, which looked like to have been mine, which I started in, but slightly rearranged. But I didn't think I was out yet. Past the door was a large mirror with the same dark figure in the corner. I discovered I had to choose the correct door each time or be sent back to the beginning. There was an obvious difference that there was a light underneath each of the doors that showed me the way until I reached a section of the rooms with the floating spinning chair. By this time I had to guess, and it was only a 50-50 chance since it was no longer light showing beneath the door. But thankfully I guessed correctly for the last few doors. At the end, the lady appeared once more through the window. But this time she didn't disappear. She zoomed right up to the window as if to make sure I noticed her. But after all of that, I finally made it back to my room and escaped those back rooms. I hope the lady stayed behind, but this round made it clear to me that she was an anomaly to watch for as well. Even the floating upside down chair followed me out. I rushed to my room, but now I had a good idea of what to look for. The anomaly showed itself when I checked the mirror with Grandpa. He was awake and his eyes followed me wherever I went. I didn't waste time and decided to just head straight to my room, checking behind me once more to make sure I wasn't being followed by him. 6 more rounds until 7 a.m. and then I can escape. Everything looked normal, nothing stood out, so I confidently took the cake for that round, only to find out the cake was actually poisoned. So that meant there was an anomaly that I missed. And the next thing I knew, I was sent back to midnight, back at the beginning. Finding myself at the start again was a bit disheartening, but what else could I do? So I just had to keep moving forward. So round 1 was normal, but round 2 is where it got interesting. The anomaly revealed itself immediately as soon as I left the room. Grandpa was staring directly at me. As soon as I got close to him, the entire room blinked for a second and was filled with skeletons dancing and playing instruments. Grandpa did a one-handed handstand and spun like a madman. This was easily my favorite anomaly so far in the game. I almost wanted to just stay there forever, where I knew nothing would hurt me, and I could just watch Mr. Bones and his band play his music and dance. But I had to keep going. With renewed confidence from Mr. Bones and his talented band, I pressed on. New anomalies appeared along with some returning ones. Grandpa chased me again, except this time I saw the lady anomaly pushing his wheelchair in the mirror. It seemed like she was around even before the back rooms. I pushed forward through a couple safe rounds. New anomalies included the lady in the portrait, a blood-filled sink, and a dilapidated living room ceiling only visible if you're looking at it through the mirror. Finally, I made it to 7 a.m. I expected one last anomaly to stop me, but Grandma and Grandpa were gone. The only path led to a different bedroom, cleaner, more well kept, and I thought I stumbled back into the back rooms. But looking in the hallway mirror, I was Grandpa again. Not the young boy, but Grandpa. Downstairs, the lady who had haunted me sat at the dining table. After everything, I still thought I was being tested one last time. Eat the cake if nothing is wrong. Don't if something is. I wasn't sure. I didn't want to restart again, but I made my way to the front of the house and could finally go outside. I felt like I was for sure free from the loop. So I decided to go back in and took the chance and ate the cake. That woman. Something deep down tells me I can trust her. I don't know who she is, but she sure makes a good strawberry cake. And that was Forgot. Hope you all enjoyed this horror game recap. Tell me what you thought, and until next time, I'll see you all later.